Good afternoon. 306 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, 3:30, we talked to former U.S. Navy SEAL Blackwater founder Erik Prince. He'll discuss all of the security failures that he saw this weekend and what he thinks should happen next. That comes up this hour. At 4 o'clock, Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics. She's got inside info on what's going on in the Secret Service, what the decision-making process was like. She'll discuss then. Brent Bazell is here at 5 o'clock. We'll talk about the media's coverage of the assassination attempt on President Trump. And Mike Davis here at 5:30. Big legal news today as a federal judge rules that Merrick Garland acted unconstitutionally when he appointed Jack Smith to go after Trump. There is so much to get to, and you can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Trump's supporters saw the gunman.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And Scott, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look. There he is.
Easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof again.
Trump supporters warning cops over and over, there is a man on that roof. He's lying flat. He's standing up. Look at him. Officer, officer. Over and over. ABC reports now that police spent at least an entire minute watching the roof where this man was. New video, according to ABC, shows police investigating near the building where the gunman was perched on the roof for over a full minute before those shots rang out. In one video, approximately 6:10 p.m. in 26 seconds, police look onto the roof as a man in white shorts points towards the building. The next clip, beginning just before 6:11 p.m., bystanders seen fleeing the area. The first gunshots are heard about 30 seconds later into that video. We're finding out a lot more about this building. That building, 130 yards from Trump, a clear line of sight from a rooftop to a major presidential candidate. The building where gunman Thomas Crooks scrambled onto the roof and opened fire was the staging area for the local police tactical team doing overwatch of the crowd, according to two law enforcement officials who spoke to ABC News. Sources previously telling ABC the building had been swept, but investigators are now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The gunman gained roof access without a ladder, according to a source who was briefed on the preliminary findings. Yeah, that's because the roof was accessible from a pretty low vantage point. At one point, there were reports this morning that cops were climbing on top of each other to look out over and see this man there. He turned his gun back on the police officer, the officer ducking down. And at that moment, the reports indicate now, he turned his weapon towards the president and began firing. A frantic series of events. Okay, we've got some breaking news right now. I'm going to return to all of our consideration of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. But President Trump just now has made an announcement via social media. Ohio Senator JD Vance is Trump's running mate. Ohio Senator JD Vance has just been named President Trump's running mate. That will be officially done at the convention coming up here in just over an hour. They're saying they're billing it down to the minute at 4:37 p.m. Eastern time. We should expect that to happen officially. But right now, President Trump has indicated via Truth Social that JD Vance is his running mate. That's going to set off a cascade of events now. One of them is you need another U.S. senator for Ohio. That job will fall to Governor Mike DeWine. Who will he name to be the replacement? And if President Trump has a say in that process, which I think he does as the head of the Republican Party, as a guy who's going to be working with Mike DeWine to win big in November, does he put Vivek Ramaswamy in, an Ohio resident as a U.S. Senator from Ohio. We'll see. JD Vance's role on this ticket, we're going to discuss in some detail today and in the week ahead, for sure. What is the message that comes from a JD Vance being included on the ticket? He's the Hillbilly Elegy author, of course. He comes into the Senate as a guy who expresses a lot of sincere concern about working Americans, what the government can do to either help them or get out of their way. JD Vance is also, and I believe this in my heart, as we talk about this assassination attempt on President Trump, he's also assassination insurance. He's the kind of guy who has a clear vision for the country, the kind of guy that the left loves to detest. President Trump is picking someone who shares his vision about making this country great. And so JD Vance is about as good a vice presidential running mate as you could possibly pick if you're picking solely on, will this guy share the vision of the primary candidate? And that is definitely the case with Donald Trump. Definitely the case. So I think this is an excellent pick. It's going to be exciting to see this convention. President Trump has not yet made his way into that convention hall in Milwaukee. It'll be the first time that a Republican crowd really gets to take him in and give him a reaction. That very well could happen this evening. There are a number of reports indicating that President Trump is set to make a cameo appearance of some kind in that hall this evening. If you're making a cameo appearance, I don't know if that means you're on the stage or if you're in some other vantage point, perhaps watching from a box. President Trump tonight expected to possibly appear there in front of a group of people who are there very much to support him right there in the middle of Milwaukee. So fascinating. So the breaking news, again, at this very moment, President Trump has named Ohio Senator JD Vance as his vice presidential running mate. Let me see here if I can actually pull up the official statement from President Trump. Of course, it is entirely possible. Here you go. After lengthy deliberation and thought and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I have decided that the person best suited to assume the position of Vice President of the United States is Senator JD Vance of the great state of Ohio. JD honorably served our country in the Marine Corps. How could I leave that out? The United States Marine. Graduated from Ohio State University in 2 years, summa cum laude. He is a Yale Law School graduate, where he was editor of the Yale Law Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. JD's book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a major bestseller and movie as it championed the hardworking men and women of our country. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now during the campaign will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliant for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. All right, so that's the president's whole message on Truth Social just now. One other detail about JD. You heard that biography. Do you know how old he is? He's 39 years old. This is a very young man. This is 39 years old, JD Vance, now the running mate to the likely next president of the United States. Remarkable. A shooter attempted to stop this president, though, this weekend. Horrifying news for all of us as we were taking it in shortly after 6 o'clock Saturday evening. I was in the state of Pennsylvania. I was with family. We were celebrating my mother and her twin sister's birthday. We were all together. We were hanging out. I was literally operating a karaoke machine. I was, people were making song requests. I was fixing it up. I was trying to pick good songs. My 90-year-old grandfather was singing song after song, and that was a great sight. But in the midst of this, I get a text message, and it's from, you know him as the in-house economist. He's also my cousin, E.J. Antoni, texts me and tells me that President Trump has been shot. Jarring news. And then I get a call moments later from our very own Corey and Ganamort, who, of course, was taking all of this in as well. But what I should point out to you is this. Corey was on the air here on WMAL. Corey was doing his program Saturday afternoon. And Corey's sitting in studio with me right now. Corey, give me a sense. What was that like Saturday? You're on the air. You're looking at your television screens right here in studio. And what do you see?
Yeah, well, my heart stopped, honestly. I was talking about the RNC convention, a few new names that were just dropped who were going to be speaking in primetime slots. And then I look up to the television and I see Secret Service all crowded around President Trump. And I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't want to jump to conclusions Originally, I thought maybe he fell. I really had no idea.
But the first time, in terms of your awareness, the first time you're really picking it up, you're on the radio, you're trying to conduct a show.
Yeah.
You look at the screen and all you see is just a mob of Secret Service all around the President of the United States.
That's exactly it. And my heart stopped. Oh my God, what happened? I really didn't know. Like I said, I thought he fell. So I was trying to narrate what I was watching on TV. Obviously, it was on mute. I just saw the former president is being surrounded by Secret Service. And when I finally saw him get up, I saw his hair all disheveled. I knew something happened. I thought I saw blood on his face and on his ear. I wasn't sure of that, so I wasn't ready to announce that on air. I let the situation play out as it did, and then we cut to Fox, who had people on the ground, and they were able to narrate it much more in detail than I was able to.
Yeah.
But oh my God, what a scary moment in American history! I'll always remember. I was on air as it happened. It's just something I'll always think about.
So you called me minutes later after you decided to pick up with the Fox coverage to get some of that reporting as it was coming in, and I got to say, I heard you. I could tell the adrenaline was flowing through you when you called me, just going over all of this. And I got to say, and you were really the first person I had a chance to talk to about this. What happened? What are we seeing? And after hearing you just tell me what happened, my first reaction, I'm not sure how many people share this. I'm sure a lot. I was enraged. Yeah. I was totally enraged, horrified, and instantly enraged by this. Because one, the obvious thing is, this is the world that the left has built, that they've radicalized people so much. They've spent so much time gaslighting people into believing that Trump is Hitler. What is the cover of the New Republic this month? They have a magazine. It has a picture of Trump's face with Hitler mustache on it. You have all of these people who go on television on a routine basis and tell everyone that he's going to destroy democracy, that he's the end of democracy itself. Biden himself. And I think I used a few choice curse words to describe each of these people. But I'm absolutely horrified by the world that they've created, one in which they create permission structures for the very thing that happened. And so for all of them to come out this weekend, not all of them certainly, but many of the very people that I'm talking about, come out this weekend, issuing condolences, we need to get the temperature down, we need to unify. They're telling on themselves.
Yeah, where has that been for so long?
If that's your position, what you're telling me is, you didn't think Trump was Hitler. You didn't think the country was actually ending as he gets closer and closer to returning to the presidency. He was already president once. To returning to the role of president of the United States. You never believed it. You just lied for power. It is disgraceful. And let me just add one other thing, Corey. Last week in the midst of all of this sort of like what is going on with Biden's brain, and I had some conversations on the air, and we talked about we should hope for Biden to stay in place as the guy on the ballot because he's the best guy to run against. He's got the record. He's everything else is unknowable, but just keep Biden there. At this point, I don't care anymore. I want the guy to resign. I want him out. He's making the whole country unsafe. This isn't just a Secret Service failure. When you say it's a Secret Service failure, what you're saying is it's a failure of the executive branch. They at best failed to protect the leading candidate for president of the United States from being shot this past weekend. And in some of the most obvious possible ways, the clear roof sightline. How many people, surely in our listening audience, a lot of people have been to political events. Corey, how many events have you been to that included Secret Service protection? And what do those events look like?
At least 10, and it takes hours to get in. And there are Secret Service everywhere. And the most obvious parts that they would be based are areas that are off-site and higher up.
Elevated.
Which is exactly where this took place.
You go around, you see snipers in elevated positions with the most fancy scopes and tripods you've ever seen. Massive guns, all designed to protect an event like this. They establish massive security perimeters. They make it so that you can't even visually see the protectee unless you're inside of the security perimeter and you've already been put through a magnetometer and you've had the dog sniff you. There's a whole thing. There's a whole security apparatus that's dedicated to this very thing. The clearest sight line to the president of the United States goes unguarded during the speech?
Makes absolutely no sense. And And we're learning that people were aware of this shooter. You saw witnesses yelling, screaming, he's right there. There's a man with a gun. The police were alerted to this. So at the very, very least, first of all, thank you for those Trump supporters for speaking up, because in hindsight, you look back at this, they may have saved President Trump's life.
In the sense that you brought this up to me, that because they told the cops, and I guess the cops were now told, the local cops, they poked their heads up. This guy sees them. He turns his weapon. Then he spins back around and he realizes he's out of time. He starts taking his shots. He did hit the president. He hits the president in the ear. But who knows if the cops hadn't gone up there, urged by the crowd to get there, what could have happened if he had time to take a more disciplined shot, if he had time to get his breathing right, everything that would be necessary to actually take a kill shot on Donald Trump. That might have been precluded by the very people you're talking about, those Trump supporters standing outside that perimeter going, hey, there's a guy on that roof. What is he doing? Officer, officer, officer. And we still have so many unanswered questions.
So many. See something, say something may have saved President Trump's life. And I just want to say this shooter was 20 years old. So when Donald Trump was entering the political field, he was, about 12 years old? So almost half of this individual's life, this scumbag who shot at President Trump, he's been told that Donald Trump is Hitler. And the media has been complicit in it, and we know that they realize that they've been pushing this narrative, because look at this morning on MSNBC, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski were benched because they were worried what they might say.
They didn't even let them on the air.
They didn't let them on the air.
They didn't let them on the air this morning, it's just, it is unbelievable the moment we're living through. And I have to say, all of the events on Saturday added up to one thing that stuck in my head right away. And President Trump said it this weekend. He said he was saved by the grace of God alone. Trump said it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. There is no question the divine played a role in protecting President Trump this weekend. All right, hold on. 3:23 now. Okay, I know there's just so much we have to get to. Your calls will be worked in there, I promise ahead. Also, we've got the news. JD Vance is the running mate. He is joining the ticket alongside President Trump. And President Trump, not a surprise, just officially won the Republican nomination at that convention. That's the latest. Coming up, Erik Prince from Blackwater, former U.S. Navy SEAL. He's got some thoughts on how to keep a president safe. All right, good afternoon. 3:35 here at News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, we'll be joined by Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics. She's got some exclusive reporting on the Secret Service failures this weekend. She's had such good reporting on the Secret Service for some time now. We'll talk to her at 4. At 5 o'clock, Brent Bazell from the Media Research Center. We discuss the media's awful coverage coming right out of that assassination attempt this weekend and what they're doing now. And then Mike Davis is here at 5:30. Some big legal news today as the classified documents case that Jack Smith and Biden administration were throwing at Trump. Well, that case was just thrown out entirely because the Biden administration violated the Constitution, a federal judge says. We've got a lot to get to, and you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Security failures. My first reaction after hearing of the news of this attack on Donald Trump was the Secret Service failed big time. Big time. And here to discuss that is Erik Prince. He's a former U.S. Navy SEAL, founder of Blackwater, and a founder of Unplugged Technologies. And he joins us on the phone. Erik, good to have you with us, sir.
Thanks, Vince. Nice to be there.
It's horrifying, of course, to see an attempted assassination on the president of the United States. What did you think as soon as you saw the footage of what went down Saturday in Pennsylvania?
I'm horrified that they allowed someone with a rifle to get positioned that close to the president. 140 yards away is effectively point-blank range. Literally a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old new hunter could make that shot. And so for them to ignore the obvious places where a sniper is going to set up. In sniper parlance, they would say that's the sniper hotel. If you stand at the podium and you look around and you can naturally identify the right places a sniper and an assassin is going to set up, it was the most obvious place. So as I said in a Twitter post, it was either malice or grotesque incompetence that led to that the death. I mean, one American was killed right behind Trump that took a bullet to the head. So it's not like they were shooting tiny bullets. No. It was probably a 5.56, a military style cartridge.
Yeah. I've never been in your line of work. I've never have been and never will be a Secret Service agent. But I do feel like if I was asked, hey, Vince, would you come up with a security plan? I would do what you're talking about. I would stand at the podium and just look around and be like, that seems like a good spot for somebody to attack. Why wasn't there somebody on that roof, Erik Prince?
Not on the roof, not on the nearby water tower, which looked over that entire industrial area, giving you a very clear vision. Putting an officer or two up there with a set of binos and a long gun would have prevented the problem. On top of that, you can see from the videos that the Secret Service counter snipers were clearly looking at something in that area, and they wouldn't engage. They see someone crawling, suspicious activity, wouldn't engage the target.
And if you see somebody crawling, Erik, and you've got the crowd saying, "Hey, there's a guy on that roof," for at least over a minute, law enforcement were aware as the crowd kept pointing.
It was actually 2 minutes. I compared the tape. I compared the shooting audio or the shooting video with the people. Someone actually filmed the crowd yelling at the cops, "Hey, there's a problem! There's a problem! There's a guy crawling on the roof." It was 2 minutes.
So 2 minutes.
So look,
so that's time for radio comms.
There's always going to be friction. There's always going to be uncertainty. But the fact is, if there was that much uncertainty and they didn't know if it was that they wouldn't shoot because maybe they thought it was another sheriff or someone that just wasn't supposed to be there, fine. Pause the rally, put protective agents around Trump, because all the podium, all the stuff right around where he's speaking is all bulletproof. So if you just get behind that for a moment, identify, make sure the threat is not real. There's even a police officer that went up, supposedly climbed the ladder to confront the suspect, and the suspect pointed his gun at him, and then the cop ended up falling off the roof. So again, if the cop backed away out of cowardice, that's a problem. Ultimately, this comes down to individual activity, individual merit, and bravery. If they're paid to do a job, they're paid to be a sheepdog in protecting the flock, they've got to do their job. The Secret Service completely failed in the advance work in not finding the obvious places where a sniper is going to set up and protecting and preventing someone from being there. But even once the shots were fired, the immediate protection detail, because the Secret Service will say, well, they didn't have enough money, they didn't have enough people. The fact is, the people that were immediately on the president, the close protective detail, were clearly bungling, because when you are in that mission and something happens to your protectee, shots were fired, danger area, that's called the X, and it is your job to get them off the X immediately. Okay, the X is where the bad guy has decided to kill you that day, and you must move off the X. And you even hear the audio of them saying, "What are we doing? Where are we going?" It should be automatic. You drill that, so you should drill that so much that it becomes an automatic response. If A, then B. If B, then C. And you're programmed, because when your body is getting flooded with adrenaline from the danger of the situation, you resort to your training, and that should have been drilled. Clearly, it was not drilled into them, and you see it even in the people struggling to reholster their weapons, and they were very much in an uncomfortable position. But that's why you train so hard beforehand to prevent that kind of overwhelm. It's exactly why the Navy built Top Gun back in the 60s, to get pilots through their first 10 combat missions, simulating it in training before, because their survival rate went up so much. You can actually do the same thing with small unit training, with rounds, like a paint round that goes at very high velocity, that does hurts a lot when you get hit by it. It reinforces that kind of training and readiness, so that when it's real, you know exactly what to do, your body knows what to do, and you look like a smooth-oiled machine. What you saw on Saturday was an embarrassment. It is a further reminder that we have overfunded, unaccountable bureaucracies. Our national security bureaucracies are failing us. They have failed us in Afghanistan. They fail us in Gaza when they can't build a pier that costs $230 million and it can't stay together. The Navy is failing to keep the waterways open. You have the entire Red Sea blocked by the Houthis. And so we have a national security apparatus that is just not responsive to today's threats. And it's getting eroded, and it's really eroding the confidence. And the really sad thing is, Vince, is that they say, yes, we're going to have an investigation, all the rest. I don't believe they have the ability to really investigate themselves and even and actually adhere to any kind of accountability, because no one actually believes in merit anymore in Washington. One political party is pushing all the DEI and ESG stuff to the detriment of being solely mission focused. I don't care where people sleep, who they sleep with, and what bathroom they use. I just want them in this case to protect the elected officials of the United States and do their job and to prevent this from happening, because innocent Americans were killed, people that just went to a political rally. And literally, you remember, World War I started when Archduke Francis Ferdinand was assassinated. He was the heir to the entire Austro-Hungarian Empire, and his assassination led to World War I. I cannot imagine what America would look like if Donald Trump was murdered, assassinated on Saturday. It would kick off unbelievable violence in America. I hate to say that, but it's true.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. As a practical matter, why is there a 5.5-foot woman tasked with protecting a 6.5-foot man? That doesn't make. I'm looking at this video, and that woman may be a warrior. I don't know anything about her, but what I'm seeing is someone whose body can't even shield the president. That doesn't make any sense to me.
In the same way that the Boston Celtics don't hire a 5'3" center or forward, right? There's people that actually depend on merit, focus on people that can actually do the job, and that's that people have lost that focus in Washington, and that's a problem, and that's why our institutions are rotted, corrupt, and failing us completely.
They definitely are. They definitely are. So, like you mentioned, there's a number of investigations that are kicking off, including Senate Homeland Security today. They said they're going to investigate all of this. Does this go anywhere? I mean, it seems like we need an administration change for things to actually get fixed in the Secret Service, at the very least.
I think it's clear that no one was fired for the complete debacle that was Afghanistan at all. No one will be fired for trying to put a pier together that cost the taxpayers $230 million, which didn't do anything.
Right.
So I guess to me, we've become like a Soviet Potemkin state where if the government lies and just keeps doing nonsense that it fails at, and there is no accountability for not doing that job. And that's troubling, and that's not how the republic can continue. So
no.
Elections must have consequences.
No, it's in fact, it's in peril as a result of that. All right. Well,
yes.
Erik Prince, thank you as always. Again, really appreciate your time and your wisdom on this subject and so many others. Thank you.
You bet, Vince. Take care.
Erik Prince, the founder of Unplugged Technologies, drawing on a deep reserve of experience in combat and protecting people and what it takes. And this obviously a massive failure in the most generous sense, a massive failure on the part of the United States Secret Service, which is in charge of the entire security plan for President Trump or any of their protectees. You know, you get these local law enforcement guys. Yeah, sure, they play a role, but it's the Secret Service that's calling all the shots. And here we are. Val is in Annapolis, line 2. Let's bring Val in. Val, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Oh, thanks, Vince. Getting back to what Mr. Prince was saying, my comment is, well, he was saying like the guy was on the roof for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That doesn't even.
Okay, now. Our audio's upset.
Who did the police, whenever they notified the police, who did the local police to whoever the people reported to?
Yeah.
Who did they report to? Because at that rate, I'm assuming and I know that's a big assumption here, that everybody, all the law enforcement and security that was there was all on the same radio frequency. At that point, Secret Service would have been alerted. They would have gone right up to President Trump, removed him off the stage, and told him there was a security threat. He'd be coming back onto the stage after the threat was eliminated. Because remember, 9/11, they went in and interrupted George Bush. The Secret Service came in, whispered in his ear, and they whisked him away. Period.
Yeah, no, he was told immediately. Yeah, so you're totally right. I had the same thought process. In fact, let me thank you, Val. I'm going to play some audio here from Dan Bongino, our colleague here on WMAL, who, of course, Secret Service agent, and he's got some thoughts on this. Why was Trump on the stage at all, he asked.
But here's another thing I'm hearing from sources, that this subject, they had been monitoring him since he came in around that external perimeter area. The subject who was the shooter. They lost track of him, apparently, and he was hiding in a building about 300 yards away. Folks, if they had this subject in their on their, say, their radar, that you had a potential threat, I think the questions right now are fairly obvious. Why was President Trump even on stage at that point? He should have not been on stage. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you know you're in a situation with a potential threat out there, just delay the event for a little bit.
You know, so being in and around D.C., we've all experienced some version of this perhaps, or at least you see it on the news. If there's a suspicious bag left near something important, right? Typically, forget January 6th and the pipe bomb chaos. That whole thing, that's still question marks. What the heck's going on there? But typically, if there's a backpack left in a Senate office building or near the White House, near, Lafayette Square, any of it, what do? They clear everyone out. They interrogate. They investigate. They send a bomb squad in. They will do everything they can to protect people. And that's just in a normal sort of everyday situation here in Washington, D.C. What happens if you have giant red alerts about a guy on a roof walking into the perimeter? What is his intention? What is he doing? We've got eyes on him. As you said, as Dan Bongino just said, they knew from the moment he walked into the perimeter, according to his sources, which I suspect are pretty good, saying they had some sense that this guy was here and they were suspicious of his intentions. If that's the case, Trump's speech hadn't gone on that long. We're talking, what was it, 5-6 minutes in? It only happened just a couple of minutes into his speech. So if what Dan is saying is right, they had pretty clear indication that there may have been a problem even prior to the start of the speech, potentially. Why is Trump on the stage? Why wouldn't you delay the start?
I mean, listen, we've got to talk candidly about this stuff. Again, I don't want to hear about Monday morning quarterbacking anything. This isn't a freaking football game, man. This is the life of the President of the United States. This isn't a joke. I saw some guy online talking about how, people make mistakes. We don't get to make mistakes. What are you talking about, make mistakes? This is the Secret Service. There's no opportunity for mistakes.
And yet, here we are. By the grace of God, a bullet through the ear of President Donald Trump. All right, Joe is in Greenbelt, line 2. Joe, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. I just want to say two things real quick. One is, do you think Vladimir Putin has got women protecting him and his detail? I was telling you, your call screener, he's probably got guys that can do 500 push-ups on their thumbs. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's this kind of stuff. And
it's obvious, right, Joe? It's obvious what the job is. The job is you've got to be tough, you got to be quick, you got to be strong, and you have to be willing to sacrifice your body. And you have to have a body that actually covers the protectee.
Right, and then you might have to carry him off. And that sniper, he needs to be really examined really closely because something stinks really bad. He couldn't see him, but he could put a bullet in him.
I don't know what happened. I'd love to know more, just as I want to know more in everything. One of the things about that video that you're talking about is you look at the sniper. There were some claims that they were watching that position. The snipers were. I've heard other people claim that he was watching a further target. If you're ever inside of a scope like that, it's a very narrow range of things you can see. So it may be that he adjusted down. You watch the gun. He pulls back, looks, and then adjusts down and moves the gun and then takes the shot. I don't know if that's because he didn't see him. I have no idea. All I know is I want some damn answers, and quickly. And it is unbelievable that the Secret Service hasn't put their director in front of a microphone in the last 48 hours for a single answer about any of this. And the Secret Service, they've had briefings on protecting Milwaukee. What are we doing around here? But they didn't put the Secret Service director out. They didn't put anybody out who can answer any questions about a would-be assassination on the former and future president of the United States. Not a single word. They've skipped out on all the joint pressers. They're not telling us anything. Instead, local sheriffs are left putting their hands up in the air going, I don't know what to tell you. The Secret Service isn't here. They're the ones you have to ask. And guess who's not answering questions? It's disgraceful. Totally disgraceful. Joe, excellent points. Stay with us. Coming up in the next hour, I've got Susan Crabtree. She's been digging in on the Secret Service. Also, the announcement today, JD Vance is the running mate. Don Jr. just answered some questions about this on MSNBC, and he didn't like the way the interview was going, so he dunked on them.